activities. This will be the third of this info webinar series, even as we approach October, where the initial one we did on the environmental security, the safeguards that we need in terms of development of energy projects, and the second one we did less than 2 weeks ago was on nuclear energy. All these are now readily available on our EIK YouTube channel. I think I will ask my support team to be able to link the different EIK social media channels, be it on our Facebook, our YouTube, LinkedIn, and all other channels where you're able to engage with us, where you're able to contribute to such discussions, as well as just be able to follow up in terms of the work that EIK is doing, and also be able to record this session, which we hope will be also posted on our YouTube channel, where you're able to go back and recall what the speakers have been able to present. Then once again, we want to welcome everyone to feel free to send in your questions, your comments on the WhatsApp, on the chat box. It's available or we are all allowed to give in our feedback there, which we will do immediately after the presentations are done. Once again, just a brief for the Environment Institute of Kenya. This is a network of all professional practitioners within the environmental space, no matter which sector you're dealing with. We welcome all members, as long as your agenda is to push forward the sustainability and environmental protection and conservation in your respective areas of work. We welcome all members, from the student membership to associates. Associates are those who are now joining in the workforce, those who have finished school and have up to, I believe, 5 years of experience, and then you can proceed to a lead member. As a lead member, then you can either come in as a firm, where it's a firm of experts, as long as you also work within the environmental space. You're free and welcome to join us in that case. And other levels where we have honorary, which we are looking for, we're trying to develop such award schemes for within our conference, which again, we encourage you to register and join us within October, which is also going to be the 10th, and it's been a whole decade of growth from 2014 up to now. Here we are in 2024. I think we have a good relative presentation at the moment of the audience, so guys who have been able to join the call. So I want to quickly hand this over to our speakers for today, who are some of our support partners from GIZ, Mr. Hilary Chebe and Ms. Joy Zue. I would want to open the floor for you. Both of them are technical advisors within GIZ Kenya and working within the energy, transport, and climate change cluster. Karibuni sana, Hilary and Joy. The floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Zelda. So let me just start off my presentation. Is the presentation on?
Yes.
I currently, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe then I can proceed. Yeah, so thank you, Zelda. Hi, everyone. Zelda has introduced me. My name is Hilary Chisebe, technical advisor with GIZ, specifically working in the field of green hydrogen, where we are supporting a number of activities in both the private sector and the public sector. So I'll be making a presentation on green hydrogen in the energy transition, where I'll just talk about the whole idea behind green hydrogen, and maybe just contextualize this in the discussion on climate change, as well as in the Kenyan context. Yeah, so thank you. So I'm sure you have heard about, or you have maybe interacted with this topic. Maybe you've had it as one of the buzzwords, that is green hydrogen. So the idea behind hydrogen is that, sorry, is the screen moving? Are you able to see? Yeah, there we go. So what's the idea behind this green hydrogen that we keep on hearing maybe through our social media pages or maybe in publications? So hydrogen is a commodity that has been traded globally for the last hundreds of years. So it's a globally accepted and a globally traded commodity that has been um, um, in the market or in the industry. And this hydrogen, this element has been used for different, it's been used for different value chains in different industries for different products. So the whole idea is that for you to produce hydrogen, like 99% of the hydrogen that is currently being produced globally, the source of this green hydrogen is fossil fuel. For you to get hydrogen, there are two main sources of hydrogen. So we have natural gas and you have coal. So in the process of getting hydrogen from these two fossil fuels, of course.
Only Hillary, are you able to share on presentation mode so that we are able to fully see your presentation?
Oh, sorry. Are you able to see it now? Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so getting this hydrogen, which is the most abundant element on Earth, comes with the challenges that carbon or CO2 emissions accompanies the production of this. So when you use natural gas, we have CO2 accompanying the hydrogen. When you use coal, the same thing happens. So the challenge that hydrogen um, is an element used in very many industries as a feedstock, then brings the challenge where how are you able to decarbonize industry? How are you able to decarbonize an economy that is dependent on hydrogen? Just to give an example of industries that use hydrogen, when you're talking about steel, when you're talking about cement, when you're talking about fertilizers, when you're talking about even fuels that have hydrocarbons, all these have elements of hydrogen. And the fact that you have to use fossil fuel to get this hydrogen, of course, brings the challenge that how do you decarbonize this industry? Now, when we are talking about energy transition or decarbonizing energy transition, there are four pillars. The first pillar is electrification, where if you're able to electrify any process, you electrify it. After that, the second pillar is energy efficiency. So this is making sure that the energy that is being used is utilized in the right way. There are no losses or there are reduced losses. And the third pillar is now if you're able to change the source of this electricity from fossil fuels to make them green by using renewable energy resources such as solar, wind, geothermal, and the like, then now we have the challenge that all these are looking into consumption, or they're looking into usage of fossil fuel as an energy. But now what do you do when you're using fossil fuel as a feedstock? Like when you're making cement, when you're doing, we need the high temperatures to break down the clinker. When you're making steel, you need natural gas to be able to reduce the iron. So in this case, now the question comes in that how do you decarbonize these sources that is not an energy source per se, but actually is a feedstock. And now this is now where green hydrogen comes into play. So in substituting hydrogen that you're getting from, or that we're getting from fossil fuels, from natural gas, which is what you're calling the gray hydrogen, which is 90% of the market. Now, how can we get this hydrogen, the same hydrogen that we're using for all these products, from a sustainable source? So when you're looking at sustainability, or when you're looking at the chemical component of, or the chemical constituents of elements such as water, you realize that we have hydrogen. So the idea behind green hydrogen is that you use water as the main fuel, and you have a process called electrolysis. So electrolysis is the process where by using electrodes, you're able to separate water into its constituents, which is hydrogen and oxygen. But since this process of breaking the molecular bonds requires a lot of energy, this energy has to be obtained or is obtained from renewable energy resources, such as solar, wind, geothermal, and the like. And now when you do this, when you use solar, wind, geothermal to power the electrolyzers, which split water into the constituents, now this element is now what we're calling now the green hydrogen, because it's been produced using renewable resources. So you're just using water as the main input, and this main input is now processed using renewable energy, which is solar. So as we see in this slide, that the first thing is that the source of this energy has to be renewable power. And a key point is that this has to be additional. So the whole idea is that because when you're talking about energy transition, we have energy that is being used for electrification, we have energy that is being used for other sources. So this cannot compete with energy that has been planned for all those purposes. So it has to be additional renewable energy that has been set specifically for the production of hydrogen. So that becomes the keyword. And now once you have this hydrogen, now the different value chains that are already existing in the different sources now remain. So you produce your hydrogen through the electrolysis. This hydrogen can be combined with nitrogen to make ammonia. And this ammonia is a feedstock that is used in many chemical industries. The same hydrogen, once you have produced the hydrogen using the renewable energy resources, can be combined with carbon to make a hydrocarbon that can be used to make fuels. The fuels that can be used to run shipping, that can be used to run aviation. And these are the industries that we're calling the hard to abate industries, because when you're talking about aviation, how do you decarbonize the fuels that is used for planes? This is the jet air one and the like. How do you decarbonize that? Are you able to put batteries? Are you able to put solar? It's not possible. So what is feasible is now that the fuel that is being used, the jet air one, can get a synthetic fuel as a substitute. And this synthetic fuel is what we are talking about when you combine hydrogen and carbon. You make a fuel, what we call the sustainable aviation fuel in that context, that now can have the same chemical properties as the jet air one that is used for planes. And in this way, you're able to decarbonize aviation industry the same way
Larry,
for...
I think we're still on slide 3.
Yes, we're still on slide 2, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
in this way, you see that the source of all these sectors or this application comes from renewable energy. We're able to make hydrogen that can now be used to in different sectors such as transport, chemical, plastics. So through one process, able to decarbonize a whole industry. And that's the whole idea behind hydrogen, that the impact that hydrogen can have in substituting fossil fuel is immense. So this just breaks down in just the main process of hydrogen, where it's electrolysis, where you have renewable energy, then you have water as the input, then you split this water into hydrogen and oxygen. So the hydrogen is what we are tapping as the main output. Then we have oxygen. Oxygen is now obtained as a byproduct. Of course, the same oxygen can be used for industrial applications, can be used for medical applications, and all other usages that oxygen can make an application. Now, what we're just talking about now, the comparison between when now you're making this green hydrogen and when you're making gray hydrogen, what is the difference? So the difference or the greening comes to the production, where for green hydrogen and green ammonia, which is one of the derivatives, so this is based on renewable energy, hydro, wind, and solar. Then, of course, we have the process of electrolysis. Vis-a-vis the current or the traditional way of producing hydrogen, which is now based on fossil fuels. So this is natural gas, we have coal and oil, then we have the processes of making that, which is combustion. We have the methane reform. Then you have a lot of methane and a lot of carbon dioxide that is emitted in that process. So this is now what has been trying to be substituted. So which industries now make a use for hydrogen, or where is this hydrogen that we're talking about relevant? So we have the fertilizers industry, which is of course very relevant to Kenya, given now that a huge contribution of our GDP comes from the agriculture sector. We have the oil refineries, we have the pharmaceutical industries, we have power producers that use natural gas, we have the steel industry, and we have the food industry where they use oils, or when you need to use hydrogen to do the hydrogenation of oils into fats. So you can see now the different value chains that hydrogen makes an application, and it's quite wide, covering a huge significance or a huge percentage of the industry. So how does this PTX work in maybe just a graphical expression of this is this shows the energy sources. We have the wind turbines with the solar panels. We have hydrogeothermal. So all these are renewable energy that, of course, can be used directly for usages such as e-mobility, of course, for heating and cooling as an energy source. So in this case, we have this part where you're using now the renewable energy as a source of power. Then, of course, now when you're talking about the additional power that can be used for electrolysis, so we have water processing, and it's important to note that this water can be water from different sources. It can be water from the sea, it can be water from lakes, it can be rainwater, it can be moisture from the atmosphere. And through this water processing, because this process requires water to be at a certain level, at a certain purification level. And now when you have this water and you have renewable energy, then you have the ingredients that is required for the electrolysis. And through this, you're able to produce hydrogen. Now, this hydrogen can also be used as a source of energy because as itself, hydrogen has the energy content. And this energy can, of course, go back through fuel cells and can be used as a source of power that can now be used to power all these applications as a form of storage. Now, the same hydrogen, of course, can also be used now for industries such as the steel industries, where in the process called the direct reduction of iron, hydrogen is used there. We have the fertilizer industry. We have, of course, the food industry, and we have the mining. Now, going a level further, where now you take this hydrogen, then combine it with other elements such as nitrogen, you make ammonia that can, of course, be used for those industries. You can take carbon, renewable carbon, so this is from biogenic residues, and you have in a hydrocarbon that can now be used to make sustainable aviation fuel, sustainable marine fuel, and the like. So this just highlights the whole ecosystems of hydrogen. Globally, currently, the demand of green hydrogen, of course, is not as significant because it's still an emerging technology. Electrolyzers are still being developed. We have, of course, a number of barriers that are still there that comes with new technologies that haven't yet been exploited. But the whole idea, the whole expression is that in the next 25 years, 26 years, as we lead towards 2050, the demand of PTX and green hydrogen will continue to grow. And by the time we're getting to 2050, the whole idea is that some industries, such as transport industry, will need to have substituted their fossil fuel feedstock with sustainable feedstock. So this shows you the potential that green hydrogen has in achieving the net zero economies by 2050. So there's going to be an emerging role between now and 2050. So it's going to be a growing economy as time goes by. To talk about the potential for producing green hydrogen, now that we have established that the main ingredient or the main factor for producing hydrogen is electricity, so countries or regions that have access to abundant renewable energy resources that can be achieved cheaply, now those are now the regions that can now be that have the highest potential to produce hydrogen. And as you can see from this graphic, Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest potential. to produce green hydrogen, of course, because of the abundant renewable energy resources that allows you to produce energy at very low cost as compared to other regions globally. Now, going closer home to Kenya, so what's our potential for PTX for green hydrogen? So Kenya, of course, has a very rich renewable energy legacy. Of course, abundance of geothermal, solar, wind for electricity generation. 90% of our grid is green, and this is, of course, sometimes can be higher, can be 92%, can be 18%, but the average grid is about 90%, which shows the importance of renewable energy resources to our economy. Our target, or the target, Kenya's target, is to transition to 100% renewable energy by 2030, and of course, this has an effect on sectors that are reliable on renewable energy, such as hydrogen, and this shows you that there could be a potential for production of low hydrogen for local use, for exports, because of the abundant resources that we have. When you're looking at geothermal, currently we have utilized about 10%, about just below 1 gigawatt of geothermal energy in the country. Our estimated potential is 10 gigawatts. So of course, you see that for us to be able to utilize much of these renewable energy resources, we need anchor offtakes, and hydrogen is one of the sectors that could provide an anchor offtake, because a lot of renewable energy resources is required. You need baseload power that is continuous, that can be able to run for at least 50% of the year. And this shows that, this highlights that Kenya stands in a very important position to be able to play a discussion, or to play a role in the green hydrogen discussion. So what has been our journey for green hydrogen? So the whole discussions began around 2020 during COVID, where the Green Hydrogen Working Group that was chaired by the Ministry of Energy and of Energy and Petroleum formed a working group that was formed by the ministries themselves and the local partners.
We're still on slide number 3, from what we can see on our screen. Is that correct?
Still on page 3?
Yes, it's still on page 3. Maybe you could scroll down. Or could we present on your behalf? I think you can have some
Yes,
idea.
please. Yes, please. Yes, please. That's okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, just give us a minute to set that up. I don't know if there's any question we can quickly review from the comments as my support comes in. Okay, there's no question right now in the chat, and there's no hand raised for now. But just give us a minute. We set this up on, yeah, we help you move the screen on our side. We encourage all members and all who are within the audience, kindly share your questions or feedback or input on the same as the presentations are ongoing. We'll be able to welcome you or respond to them immediately the presentations are done. And yes, the presentation will be shared on request via email. So once the presentation is done, if you do send us an email to info@EIK, we'll be able to send the presentation to you, definitely with the consent of the presenters. Anderson, are you able to present right now? I think Hillary, just continue where you are.
Okay. Okay.
Sort that out. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, thank you, Zelda. So the discussions on hydrogen began around 2020, where the Ministry of Energy constituted a green hydrogen working group that was formed by the ministry together with development partners such as GIZ, and the whole idea was to try and develop the foundations for a green hydrogen economy by trying to see what is the potential, where does Kenya lie in these discussions, and what could be done to be able to provide a framework in order to establish this. So one of the first activities that was implemented as a result of these discussions was the baseline study for the potential of green hydrogen and PTX in Kenya that was launched in early 2022. And this study is available on the Ministry of Energy website. The study just highlighted the challenges, the potential, and the position that Kenya had in regards to developing a hydrogen economy. So looking into what are those industries that currently are using hydrogen, what are those value chains that could make a good use of hydrogen, what are those maybe even in the future industries that could be able to be established, or new value chains that could be established that could of course be as a, or could benefit from the greening of this economy. Once the baseline study was launched, the first idea was, of course, given now that it was highlighted, or it was proven that now that there's potential for green hydrogen in Kenya, the first mandate was to develop a strategy and a roadmap for Kenya, which was supported by the European Union. And this process started in early 2022 and resulted in the launch of the Kenya Green Hydrogen Strategy and Roadmap that was launched during the African Climate Summit last year in September. And this gave direction to the country with regards to what needed to be the priority areas where the country needed to focus. And of course, just to highlight the opportunities to stakeholders already in the industries, and also to stakeholders that could be of interest or potentially could benefit from this. So in one of the priority areas was that in the current phase, which is between 2024 and 2028, the low-hanging fruit was fertilizers, because currently Kenya doesn't have a mature hydrogen economy, but being an agricultural rich country where we import most of our fertilizers, about 90% of our fertilizers are imported from other countries, then this made, I think we have a presentation ready. You can just move forward.
Yes, much better. Now we can see the full screen.
Apologies, much apologies. You can just continue until the page on Kenya's journey. Yes, thank you. Yes, so of course through the European Union support, the roadmap was launched last year, and this roadmap gave timelines in which Kenya could harness or could develop or could provide a framework or foundations for green hydrogen economy. And there were three phases that were given. So we had the first phase between 2024 and 2028, where the focus area will be to develop a local market. And in this local market, it was identified that fertilizers are a low-hanging fruit, where about 90% of our fertilizers are nitrogen-based fertilizers. So nitrogen-based fertilizers are manufactured using ammonia, mostly ammonia. And now this is the same ammonia that is made using hydrogen. So the whole idea was that the focus area will be to establish or to be able to substitute these imports that Kenya makes every year, about 700,000 tons of fertilizers, with the focus area being at least 20% of these imports within this first region. And then between 2025 and 2032, this will increase to 50% of our fertilizers that we import to be substituted by the nitrogen-based fertilizers from green hydrogen. And the whole idea is that by the time we get to 2032, of course, because of these developments, the green hydrogen economy by then will have been grown to a certain level. And now this will allow the country now to explore other industries such as transport, such as sustainable aviation fuel, such as marine fuel, and of course, there's the element of export, because once you have an abundance, or when you fully utilize or fully satisfy your local market, then now the question comes in: are you able to satisfy or able to fulfill the requirements maybe from Europe that has high demand of hydrogen, but do not have the right resources or enough resources to be able to harness this. Go to the next slide. So how is the stakeholder landscape when we are talking about these discussions on hydrogen? So there has been a lot of progress the last 4 years since the discussion started. And now where we are, we've had so many players getting into the industry, of course, from different angles. We have from the ministries, relevant ministries, such as the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Climate Change. Of course, now that decarbonization is also one of the main agendas of the NDCs. We have academia, different players coming in. We have DFI such as the KfW, the World Bank. We have associations. We have the private sector. Of course, this is now where much of or bulk of the stakeholders are, because we have developers, we have energy developers and players who have been experienced, who have been doing a lot of energy projects, and now they are shifting to look into how can they be able to harness their experience in renewable energy projects to be able to explore production of green hydrogen using the experience and the resources that they have. Then, of course, we have the public sector. So it's a very rich stakeholder landscape, very many players that are there, and this, of course, highlights the importance of the potential that that Kenya has, or the opportunity that Kenya could explore with regards to green hydrogen. Early this year, Kenya University launched the African Green Hydrogen Hub, where different discussions or different stakeholder engagements can be carried out with regards to this, bringing in stakeholders from academia, bringing in research institutes to be able to understand, to be able to map out resources in the country, and just provide enough information for all the stakeholders who are already in the industry. We have one of the outputs of the green hydrogen strategy for Kenya was that development of different structures, such as the Secretariat, which is hosted at the Ministry of Energy. We have the Green Hydrogen Industry Association, which brings together stakeholders from the private sector, so players along the whole value chain, from production to midstream to end of the value chain. And now these players, the whole idea for this industry association is to be able to carry out discussions, to be able to bring together players in trying to address some of the barriers, some of the challenges, because as a new technology, of course, there's a lot of uncertainties with regards to specific technologies. And being able to have or being able to lobby these in organized association now makes it easy to be able to address some of these elements. Currently, as we'll see in our next slide, we already have a green hydrogen plant that is operational in the country. So this is a 2 megawatt plant that was commissioned sometime last year. And of course, this was a game changer because the energy source is solar panels that are used to produce fertilizers. The same fertilizers is used is used in this farm for the production or for the utilization of macadamia nuts that is exported to Europe. So of course, this is a very important milestone, because for many countries, this looks like a pipe dream. This looks like something that, of course, given now the challenges that comes in technology, being able to realize this within 4 years of starting these discussions is very encouraging. So this plant is operational, producing 1 ton of ammonia per day that is sold to the farm through a purchase agreement, a 15-year purchase agreement, and this ensures now that the off-taker is able to get green fertilizers at a fixed price over a very long period of time. Because one of the challenges that green hydrogen or green ammonia tries to establish is that when you have local production, you're able to avoid the challenges of the burden that comes with depending on imports. This is supply chain disruptions, as we saw in 2022 when we had the start of the Ukrainian-Russian war, where much of the fertilizers that were being produced in those two countries were disrupted. And of course, this had a ripple effect on the rest of the country, such as Kenya, where price skyrocketed to almost double the price of fertilizers. And of course, this means now that when you're having dependencies on agriculture, that any aspect that affects the price of fertilizers, anytime you have an aspect that affects the availability of fertilizers, this has serious effects on the whole country. And now this is one of the elements that green hydrogen or stroke green ammonia is trying to achieve. And with that, I think I come to the close of my presentation, and I hand it over back to you, Zelda, for questions that my colleague and myself will try to address. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. I hope everyone has been able to follow through, even though we had a few challenges with the first few slides. I think at this time, as the presenter said, they have given us a brief overview on what is happening within the hydrogen sector space in terms of what Kenya has been able to achieve and also the progress as Kenya is developing the same. I would first want to open it up to those who are present currently with us here at the session. If you do have any questions, any input and comments, I do not see any question raised within the chat, but we have also shared the links, some of the links that Hilary has shared. Hilary, if there's any link that I've not added to the same, probably yourself or Joy could add the same on the chat. I can see many people are appreciating the same. Then I will also go back to the questions that you were able to submit as you registered for the same, that we will add to this as they continue answering the question. So for now, I can see Amana has raised his or her hand. Kindly go ahead and ask your question or give in your input. Karibu.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Thank you for confirming that. So I would like to start first by congratulating Hilary. Thank you so much for that presentation. It was very clear, very easy to understand, and very easy to follow through as well. So I have 3 questions. Maybe the first one isn't a question directly, but it's food for thought. You said that the target, and please, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You had said that the target for Kenya to achieve renewable energy by 2050 is 30% of its energy use, but Kenya's current electricity, 90% of it is from renewable sources. So I was just wondering, there was a little bit of a conflict there. And my second question is, it was so nice to see the green ammonia plant, and maybe if you don't mind, you can also share how we can be able to visit it if it's allowed. But I would like to know the location, the exact location of where it is, if you are agreeable to disclose. And then my third question is, I didn't hear clearly on export, right? Because the presentation was mostly tailored towards the consumption or the use of green hydrogen locally, but it's quite out there that majority of the green hydrogen produced in Kenya is exported. So I would really appreciate to hear something about that from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mara. So maybe I can go ahead and respond to the question, then maybe Joy could also come in. So on the first question about the energy mix, so currently we are at 90% green electricity, and the target of Kenya's target is to achieve 100% green grid by 2030. So I don't know, maybe there was a mixture there, but the whole idea is that the focus is to achieve 100% green grid by 2030. The second question about the location of the green ammonia plant. So this is in Morendat. This is in Naivasha. Yeah, this project was commissioned by an American company called Talus. So in case you want to visit the site, I think you can always reach out to Zelda. Then we can link up with the owners of the farm, and they'll be more than happy to arrange a visit for interested parties to go and see the farm. It's a really interesting farm. On the question about exports, yes, the focus area is local markets, and this is mostly because when you're talking about exports to Europe, we are not the only country in Africa that is in the green heritage space. We have countries like Morocco, we have countries like Mauritania, we have countries like Namibia that are already ahead. In fact, there's a project in Namibia, the Hyphen project, which is about a 10 billion euro green ammonia project, where there's enough, about 300,000, 400,000 tons of ammonia that should be exported to Germany. So the biggest barrier when you're talking about exports is how competitive can you be? How competitive can you be when you're producing green hydrogen? What is the final price? By the time that product gets to the global markets, what's the final price? So given now that we do not have a mature market, it's very difficult because there's a number of steps that the country needs to undertake in order to mature the economy in a certain way to be able to compete with these other countries. A country like Morocco already has pipelines to Europe, so it's very easy for them. So when you're talking about transport, because transport is an added cost, how do you transport ammonia or hydrogen from the port of Mombasa all the way to Europe? So do you use pipelines? Do you use ships? What's the point? Because you look at Mauritania and Morocco, they really have established trade routes, which makes it easy for them to export to those countries. So for Kenya, as highlighted in the strategy, that yes, export is an opportunity because one of the elements of export is that who is willing to pay the premium. Europe is willing to pay the premium because of not enough renewable energy to satisfy or to fulfill their demand. So they're looking into other countries in Africa to be able to get hydrogen for their operations. But now the biggest issue is currently we're not competitive. We cannot compete with other African nations that are really ahead of us. And in that case, we need first of all to, in the short term, as we are trying to achieve or to mature the economy, can we be able to satisfy the local market? Then through that development, then we can be able to come back in 2032 and say now that we're mature enough, we have developed these mechanisms, we have developed these structures, and we're ready to compete with other countries. Because as the strategy says, between now and 2032 is local market. From 2032, now we are looking into exports. So it's more of like by that time we will be at a position or at a better place to be able to compete with other nations for the global markets. Yeah, I hope that has answered.
Yes, thank you very much. That has answered my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amana. And I think, Hilary, you've tried to kind of explain, or I have a question that we actually received from the registration that one of the members did ask. Probably that could build up on the same in terms of what will be the cost-benefit analysis of us, because I think you brought in the aspect of whether it's for the local market or for exporting. And that raises the question in terms of what will be the factors to be involved as we are exporting the whole transportation, giving the example that other countries may be better positioned, such as Morocco, who already have an existing pipeline on the same. Someone asked, what is the cost-benefit analysis of green hydrogen in the energy transition compared to other energies? Maybe you may not explain all other energies, but probably just give us an example if we are to compare another energy type, maybe solar, or whichever best example you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Zelda. So hydrogen, ideally, when maybe as we were starting off, when you're talking about green hydrogen, the main ingredient for production of green hydrogen is green sources. So for you to produce hydrogen, you require a renewable energy resource. It could be solar, It could be wind, it could be geothermal, it could be hydro. So actually, the point of discussion is, given now that all these energy sources are actually an input to the production of hydrogen, so the question comes in, what's the cost-benefit analysis when you're looking at different renewable energy resources? If I produce green hydrogen using solar, what's the cost? When I'm producing green hydrogen using geothermal, what's the cost? When I'm producing wind, what's the cost? So as GZ, we have published a number of studies, which we'll share maybe to Zelda. And we have done some of this analysis where we've performed cost-benefit analysis using solar alone, using solar and wind, using geothermal, and what's the final price of that. And maybe just to give a summary, that the two biggest elements or aspects when you're looking into affordability of green hydrogen is, number one, the cost of power. So when you're looking at the final cost of hydrogen, or when you're looking at the levelized cost of hydrogen, about 60% comes from the cost of electricity. If you're able to get cheap electricity to run the electrolyzers, then you're able to become as cheap as you can. Yeah. For example, let's say, for example, currently the market prices for gray hydrogen, which is now the traditional product, is about €2 per kg. How are you able to achieve that €2 per kg? From our assessment, you need to have power, or you need to get an energy source that can, or you need to get an energy from a source at less than 3 cents, less than 4 cents. So what energy sources can be able to give you energy at that cost? So that becomes now the hindrance or the limiting factor. How are you able to do that? That's one. Number two is, how many hours are you able to run? Because of the technology, this is the electrolyzers. The electrolyzers need to run for a particular number of hours. Yeah. So when you're talking about solar is only available for a limited time during the day. So when you use solar alone by itself, then you're not able to fully utilize the electrolyzers. And of course, now this will have an effect on the final cost of hydrogen. So when you look at projects that are being developed globally, you'll find that it's very common that you'll have solar and wind-based green hydrogen projects. And this is because when you combine solar, which has a capacity factor of about 21%, when you combine this with onshore wind, which has a capacity factor of about 40%, then you're able to pass the 50% threshold that is required for green hydrogen. Then when you look at the cost of solar and wind are continuously falling. So through that, you're able to establish that that kind of a setup will be able to give you the lowest cost of hydrogen compared to other sources, such as, let's say, for example, geothermal, which can guarantee you a baseload of more than 90%. But when you look at the prices of geothermal, like in Kenya, geothermal is very mature unless something happens, but it's able to give you a load factor of about 90%. So all this analysis that now determine the final prices of hydrogen are available. We have done this, and it's a very important aspect when you're looking into production of hydrogen, because how cheap you can go or how low you can go will determine how low the price of hydrogen. So yes, those cost benefit analysis have been done. JSA has performed and has done a number of studies that are available publicly, and this can be shared, of course, for you to have a read on that.
Thanks, Hilary. I think the question that follows from everyone's mind is, I think you kind of touched on it also on your presentation, but then just to clarify on the same, Mr. Mbada has put it on the chat. I see your hand, Willie, and Mr. Hassan. I will get back to you, but probably just a follow-up to what Hilary has just mentioned at the moment. We have seen the cost-benefit analysis, and we understand the electrification aspect, and in all the details that you have detailed in terms of green hydrogen production, this is supposed to be a generally clean process, right? We are reducing or eliminating any, as we have not actually mentioned any emissions in that case. But then there's the question, what are the possibilities, or are there any effects in terms of the production of this same green hydrogen? Is there a chance, or what can make the green hydrogen lean towards the gray? I don't want to say it's going to turn to gray hydrogen, but then what are the chances or how do we actually make sure green hydrogen is fully decarbonized, that there's no actual emissions in the eventual production of green hydrogen?
Yeah, thank you, Zelda. So hydrogen, green hydrogen is not a new topic. Hydrogen is a commodity that has been commonly traded. So there are already established standards, procedures of handling hydrogen. The established measures of handling hydrogen and ammonia and the like. So the whole idea behind green hydrogen is that the same hydrogen, because hydrogen that is produced using fossil fuels and hydrogen that is produced using green hydrogen, it's the same hydrogen, has the same chemical components, but the focus area is that the biggest or much of the emissions when you're looking at the whole value chain on hydrogen, much of the emissions happen during production. Of course, we have emissions, methane emissions during transportation, during handling. In some cases, like for application of nitrogen-based fertilizers, like for example, urea, calcium, ammonium nitrate, there are emissions. We have N emissions, we have P emissions. So down the value chain, of course, there are emissions that are still there, that even with gray hydrogen, even with green hydrogen, still there. But the focus area was, or is, this production. When you're using fossil fuels to obtain that hydrogen, when you're using natural gas, when you're using coal to produce that hydrogen, this is now the focus area for green hydrogen. We want to decarbonize the production sources, because when you're looking at the rest of the value chain during transport, handling that, there are still risks, there are still contributions to emissions, but these production or these emissions that happen during production, this now is what is being green hydrogen is trying to establish. Are we able to decarbonize this production? Then down the value chain, of course, this is now a point for the whole hydrogen economy, whether gray, whether green, or whatever. How are we able to reduce emissions during handling, during application, like for the fertilizers? So the focus of green hydrogen is to reduce the emissions, but to decarbonize the production process. So that's the focus area for green hydrogen during the production, to substitute natural gas, to substitute oil, to substitute coal. So that's the decarbonization focus area for green hydrogen.
Thank you. Mr. Willie Ngunjiri can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Wilson Gunjiri. So my question is on, as a project developer, apart from seeking grants, how else can you be able to match up the production cost to the market cost of hydrogen, given that there is a price gap of close to €7 per kg? Question 2, how can hydrogen project attract carbon credits? Keeping in mind that you have to make sure there is no double counting of the carbon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Wilson. Sorry, as I think this was a point that was raised earlier. The biggest cost, or the biggest input to the final price of hydrogen is the cost of electricity. If you're able to get low electricity or cheap electricity, then you're able to get low cost of, or low price of hydrogen. But there are other elements that ideally come with emerging technologies, because for you to produce green hydrogen, you require electrolyzers. Electrolyzers, I think maybe the last 10, 20 years is when we've had almost an exponential increase in research and development and maturity of some technologies, but it's still limiting. Currently, even now, when you want to make an order for an electrolyzer, the supply of electrolyzers cannot match the demand because of the unprecedented increase in demand. So when you're talking about technology, a certain percentage of the cost of producing hydrogen comes from the technology, but it's not mature. Electrolyzers are not mature. I think in Kenya, I think only 2 companies, only 2 projects in the country have electrolyzers. So you can imagine even this on a global scale, that the only way you can be able to reduce the cost of equipment is when you have mass demand. And now this is what is being encouraged when you're talking about, when you're creating awareness, when we are establishing new industries and new economies. The whole idea is that this lowering of price because of economies of scale can only come when the demand is there, and the demand needs to be created so that you can be able to benefit from economies of scale. But as it is, as you can see even from the numbers, only 1%, less than 1% of hydrogen globally is produced using electrolyzers. So there's that limiting factor where it's more of market dependent. That there's very little that developers and other stakeholders can do other than just do it. But of course, we have a number of financing vehicles or financing mechanisms that have been launched in the last 2 years to be able to encourage or to fill this gap between the production gap and the consumption gap. So we have a number of vehicles. Like last year, we had a call for applications for the Power to X Development Fund, which was looking into projects in Africa, Kenya being one of the countries, where the whole idea was to provide price compensation difference. So this is if you're producing a hydrogen, and because of the limitations that you've seen, because maybe electricity cannot go lower than a certain price, the price of equipment cannot go to a certain price. So you have this price that, of course, is different from the market price. So now these price compensation mechanisms will come in and fill in the gap so that they compensate the developer for these production costs, but at the same time ensuring now that the final consumer gets this commodity at market price. So this is what is being developed currently, and the whole idea is that for the next 5 to 10 years, until the market matures, where you're able to produce green hydrogen competitively, there will be a lot of there's going to be need for a lot of such mechanisms to be able to fill in this gap, and this is of course one of the measures given the German government is doing, because we have a mechanism, or we have a mechanism called H2 Global, which is financing the price difference between developers or between producers of hydrogen from other countries who are planning to export into Europe. So this facility is able to pay the difference so that it compensates the producer of this hydrogen, this from Africa, from Kenya, to be able to sell it competitively to the consumers who are based in Germany. So I think a lot. Maybe what the second question was on. Will you clarify on the second question?
Okay. The second question was on how do hydrogen projects attract carbon credits?
Yes, thank you. As we've seen with renewable energy projects, where if you're producing 1 kilowatt hour of energy from a renewable energy source that alternatively or in another way could have been obtained using renewable energy sources, there is a standard measure where for every 1 kg of hydrogen that is produced, there is CO2 equivalent that is avoided, and this is already a standard value that now can be used to be validated. And now once you have this carbon validated, just like with other carbon credits from other sources, now this can be used to either get some benefits or can be traded. In the US, we have the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, that talks about when you produce green ammonia, you are or you qualify to get tax credits up to 50%, but you need to validate and you need to prove that you have produced this green ammonia sustainably, and you can even quantify the number or the amount of carbon or CO2 equivalent that you have avoided in the process. So this is actually one of the key points, or one of the I'd say incentives for green hydrogen, is that now that there's one form of, or there's an extra source of input to give it a bigger or give it a better business case, where you can even be able to trade, quantify and also trade these carbon credits. And in one of the reports that we commissioned or we launched last year, this is the Green Hydrogen Sector Study for Kenya, we have even done the calculations to show you how much of carbon credits benefits can accrue to a green ammonia case in a country like Kenya. So yeah, this is actually one of the highlights of that you can be able to trade and participate in the carbon markets as a green hydrogen player. I don't know if there's one or two things to add on that.
Would you want to come in here to add to that?
No, not specifically to really, that was well answered. But I've seen there's also another question that says, in terms of safety, that's from Johnson in the chat. It says, in terms of safety, considering hydrogen exposed to the atmosphere is highly explosive, what are the mitigation to this, especially to the users? I think that one has also partly been answered by Hilary, because hydrogen technology already exists, and there are standards and there are safety standards for people who actually use hydrogen. So the standards sort of remain for safety. They're just maybe an additional or something of the sort. So, sorry, there's maybe just additional, but the standards, the safety standards remain. Yeah.
I have tried to share some of the links of the reports or the documents that Hilary and Joy have referenced in their presentation. Joy, probably if we have a link to the safety standards, I don't know if that is too technical, but then probably those who are definitely will want to investigate on the same, you could share the link on the chat. I have the hand of Mr. Ali Noor. You are before Dixon, so kindly Ali Noor, go ahead, then Dixon Wenda can come in before I refer back to the questions that we received on the registration form. Go ahead, Mr. Ali Noor.
Thank you. Mine is not even a question, it's just a clarification. Buena Hilary, did you say the cost of the plant in Naivasha is about 10 billion euro? Did I get that correctly? Or how much is the cost of the plant?
So
Thank you.
the 10 billion, yeah, thank you. So the 10 billion is the cost of the hydrogen projects in Namibia, the Hyphen project, at 10 billion. So that was for the Nigeria, for the Namibian project. That was the cost of that project.
Thanks.
That was straightforward. Thank you for the clarification, Hilary. Dixon Wenda, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Zelda, Hilary, and the entire team. Mine is a question on the carbon markets and especially the carbon amendment bill of Kenya, and looking at clean hydrogen fuel as it's viewed right now as a potential alternative to the carbon-based fuels. I don't know if this has been factored in our current the amendment bill on carbon markets for Kenya. Please, if you can help me understand on that, I really appreciate.
Maybe Joy, regards to.
Sorry, yes. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure. Maybe Hilary, you could respond. I'm not too sure if that has been factored in. But what I know is that we were in consultation and we also submitted some of our suggestions. So I'm not too sure if it has been factored in. Sorry about that. Hilary, maybe?
Yeah. So when the strategy was launched last year, so we have the project coordination committee and the secretariat, the Green Hydrogen Secretariat that is based at the Ministry of Energy. So we have the different ministries. So the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Agriculture. So I think I'll need to confirm this, but all these ministries or all these stakeholders who are, of course, behind some of these regulations and behind some of these measures, they are, they are aware of their part of the green hydrogen discussion, and I think I'll need to confirm that. But the whole idea is that we have these ministries as part of the committees that is looking into green hydrogen. So there could be a possibility that that this could have been factored in, yeah, because they're already part of the discussion. But we will need to confirm that, yeah.
Thank you. Before I bring in Mr. Wilson, no, I think I saw Magdalene hand was fast, but let me just go back to one of the questions that was submitted. And I think you have definitely touched on them one or twice in your presentation and also while answering the question, but probably we can narrow it down probably for like a few minutes as we discuss this. The question is, what are the local hydrogen value chains available in Kenya? And how are they streamlined into county devolved functions, ministries to benefit climate change vulnerable communities? So probably let's have that discussion, narrowing it down to Kenya. What are the local hydrogen value chains currently, or what is the potential of their development? And are they a devolved function, or what are the different ministries coming to support the local vulnerable communities?
Yeah, thank you, Zelda. When talking about the value chain, Kenya doesn't really have a hydrogen, a mature hydrogen economy where we don't produce hydrogen locally, of course, apart from for the new projects. So this has limited now the value chain to two areas. So we have the upstream, which is now the production. So given now that the production of green hydrogen requires energy sources, now we have this value chain being filled with the producers of energy. Then now we have the other sector where we're talking about consumptions of green hydrogen and its derivatives. I think the last 10 years, we had two manufacturers who used to consume hydrogen, and they used to import this hydrogen from abroad, and this has been the case even up until last year. So this has limited, or this has restricted a developed or a mature value chain, only limited to players who import hydrogen, such as companies such as BOC or other importers. But then again, there's a potential that which is something that was highlighted during the strategy, that now there's potential to develop new value chains. How do we have these value chains? Number one, we have industries such as the agriculture sectors, where 90% or more than 90% of our fertilizers is imported. Very few of our fertilizers are produced locally, and the probability or the potential to produce fertilizers locally, like what we've seen in Morindat, now raises now the possibility that we can have new value chains where we have the same companies that used to import fertilizers through importers, through maybe players like EPRA and the like, could be able to they themselves be a part of the value chain where they produce their fertilizers locally. And in that way, now we have upstream and midstream companies such as the ones that produce energy. So you're having, if you are an energy IPP, you are an energy company that provides C&I option. Now you are brought into the loop where now you can be able to produce or be able to provide affordable electricity that can be used now to produce the green hydrogen. So you see now that we are looking into, or we are moving to a place where now, having no mature hydrogen economy, now we're able to, or Kenya is able to develop its own new value chain where we have the same players who just had a very passive role, where they just import, they just buy the fertilizers, or they buy the products from other players. Now they themselves play a role where they're able to, they themselves produce their own ammonia, their own hydrogen, and consume it on site. And that's now the biggest incentive for hydrogen, that you're able to produce on site, you're able to produce and consume it locally. In a way to also answer the second question, and I think there's also a question about how does production of hydrogen benefit rural communities, or how does this contribute to these discussions on county. Now, when you're looking at the value chain, now we have three areas. We have the upstream, which is the production of affordable energy. We have the second step, which is midstream, which is now transport of electricity, which is what we call electrons, or transport of molecules, which is transport of hydrogen or its derivatives. Then now we have the final end user, or the final player in that value chain, which is the consumption. Now, when you're looking at the cost-benefit analysis of hydrogen, the determinant of the price is those three things. Where is your energy source, number one? Number two, where is your market? Number three, where do you get your resources? Because when you're looking at Kenya, where can we get the cheapest solar, the cheapest wind? You find out that this is available in north of the country. So in Turkana, in Garissa, that's where now we have abundant renewable energy resources. Number two, where do you get your market? We're looking into using the hydrogen for fertilizers, or you're thinking about using the hydrogen for industries. Then the industrial clusters are now based towards Naivasha, Nairobi, and Mombasa. When you're looking into maybe after 2032, you're looking into exports of ammonia and hydrogen to other countries. Now you need the port facilities. You need to be close to the facilities that allow you to be able to export it. So when you look at the different elements, you find out that the different aspects of the green hydrogen production value chain, it's very hard for them to be placed at the same point unless it's an on-site production. So you have production of hydrogen or production of energy in countries such as Marsabit, in countries such as Garissa. Then you have the end users in other countries such as Nairobi, such as Naivasha, Nakuru, such as Mombasa. When you're looking into export of these resources, we have areas like Mombasa. So you find out that there's an element of distribution, or there's an element of different players, different regions, different counties, in this case, paying their own roles, able to contribute to the whole value chain. And of course, in this case, it means now that all these stakeholders, all these countries have a role to play. When you're looking into, let's say, for example, we've had a number of projects that are being developed in the country, and the first thing that they usually look into is that, have you involved the communities? Have you talked to the communities about such projects? What's their contribution? What's their view on just transition? When you're looking into water, you need water to produce hydrogen. Where do you get this water? How sustainable is it? Will you compete with other water sources such as rivers, such as boreholes? You need to involve the communities. When you're talking about discussions on land, for you to produce hydrogen, you require lots of spaces, and when you're looking into areas like Marsabit or areas like Garissa where land is sensitive, you need to involve these communities, you need to involve all these players. And as my colleague Joy is with the PTEC Hub, there's a whole discussion or a whole element on sustainability where all the stakeholders need to be involved. They need to be included in this discussion even before the projects get to a certain point, and have them involved all throughout until the realization of the project. I don't know, maybe Joy, you can say one or two on that.
Yeah, thank you, Hilary, for also expounding. That was very well done. But yeah, specifically, as Hilary mentioned, for the first phase, as a country, we are looking to produce green fertilizer, specifically green ammonia fertilizer. But there are also some other existing value chains that we're exploring to see if we can get business case specifically in the aviation sector. So there's a sustainable aviation fuel, there's also sustainable maritime fuel, and then there are also discussions in the chemical industry as well, and then also discussions for having green steel and green cement. So there are specific value chains, but as Hilary said, they're not yet established, and now we're just trying to see if we can have business case around them, and also just looking at the whole cost factor. For the issue of the communities, yes, that is actually an issue, but we're also trying to see that even as people are developing projects, if they can always look at the social aspect. So this we are doing in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, and we're just trying to see how the community can also benefit. So when we are developing projects, if there can be an ecosystem where the community also benefits, because most of the projects, as Hilary said, will be located maybe in Marsabit, for example, in areas where there is renewable energy resources. So we're also trying to see how we can form an ecosystem where the community directly benefits from the production of green hydrogen. Yeah, I think those are the two things. Yeah, thank you.
To Magdalene Jiru.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hilary, for that good presentation. We are learning a lot from your presentation. My question is just a clarification. From my small chemistry background, when hydrogen is produced or in cases of large-scale hydrogen production, it's always accompanied by heat. And that heat can react with the nitrogen in the air and oxygen to form another compound, nitrogen oxide. And it is an environmental concern that nitrogen oxide can bring other environmental issues like acid rain, respiratory issues, and things like that. Maybe you can clarify?
Thank you, Magdalene. As you rightfully say, when producing hydrogen, so we have hydrogen as the main element. We have heat at about 80 degrees that is obtained, as well as oxygen. So of course, because of the risk that which also happen during application of ammonia, where if you do not apply this ammonia in the right way, especially now that let's say, for example, if you apply ammonia on the surface, not deep into the soil, or we don't have better ways of managing that, then we have emissions of nitrogen into the air, where you form the NOx gases, of course, which are more lethal or more damaging than even CO2. So they are actually a bigger threat to climate change than the other ones. So when you're looking at the production facilities, how this is mitigated against is that all the elements, hydrogen, oxygen, heat, and all those, they are produced within a very controlled environment. And you find out that there's a lot of checks and balances when these gases are produced. It's a very tight system that by the time you're having any of these gases or any of these products being released, they have already been monitored. They have already been filtered to make sure that there are no deposits or no harmful gases that are emitted into the atmosphere. I'll give you an example. One of the typical features of some of these electrolyzers is that when you're producing that hydrogen, the hydrogen is never 100% pure. It's always about 99 point something percent pure. So there's always an element that will have other gases. You'll have nitrogen, you'll have something else that is not controllable. So anytime that you produce or these hydrogen gases are produced, there's a control mechanism that will monitor and to ensure that all those gases that are emitted alongside hydrogen are accounted for. So they'll either be tapped and redirected somewhere else, or some of it will be redirected into the process until now you have a point where not even 1% of these gases is released into the atmosphere. The same thing with nitrogen, because how do you get this nitrogen? You have these air separation units that will take air and separate the air into the different elements. So with 78% nitrogen, all these other gases. So the whole idea is that for most of this technology, and that's why even currently, when you're looking at the technology, because the only way or the best way to be able to mitigate against those emissions is that you use technologies that are able to ensure that there's no release of harmful gases into the atmosphere, but you're able to establish that. And now when you look down the value chain, let's say, for example, through pipelines, through transport, that risk is still there. And it's one of those risks that even for the traditional mature gray hydrogen, it's existing. It's existing, and it's one of the challenges that is still hard to mitigate against. When you're applying urea, when you're applying ammonia, you'll have nitrogen losses, you'll have the P losses, which now will be released into the atmosphere. When you don't apply these chemicals, it's a risk that is there. But for the production of green hydrogen, this is being mitigated through the technology, where you have a lot of control set mechanisms that will ensure that none of these gases are released into the atmosphere. Just to give you maybe another example, the plant in Naivasha has about 1,000 control safe mechanisms. So this ensures that in case a gas or unwanted gas is released from this process, there are other processes that will make sure that this gas or this element does not get into the atmosphere. So it's all closed to make sure that that doesn't happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Madeline, and thank you, Hilary, for that understanding of the whole process. Finally, I'll want to add Muya Moses, then I'll dive into some of the questions that we have received. Definitely, once again, for all those with the inputs, keep adding them to the chat. Muya Moses, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, all. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, mine is not really a question, but I want to thank the panelists, and I wish to assist them in offering clarity on a question that has been raised in regards to how the production of green hydrogen can leverage carbon financing and whether it has been captured in the past carbon regulations 2024. The answer is yes. Any carbon project is factored or has been factored under the regulation, and how this project or anyone involved in production of green hydrogen can leverage on carbon financing is basically proving additionality. What Hilary has been saying about the cost of production can be extremely high. So it is incumbent on the developer to prove that without carbon financing, the project cannot run and cannot yield the desired benefits, hence the need for the carbon financing. But the short and long of it is that the regulations address all those issues, and anyone can invest in green hydrogen production and get a benefit from carbon financing, as long as they meet those two targets: prove additionality and also how it addresses SDG goals. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses.
Thank you, Hilary, and thank you, definitely, Moses, for giving us that clarification. I think just for my team and also with Hilary, we'll be able to review, or yeah, anyways, for all the links that I think everyone has mentioned, we'll try to add them to the presentation as we go to share the, as we share the resources with you on email. There's a comment by Susan Manyasi. About 20 years ago, hydrogen was produced in Kenya electrolysis method. The plant was shut down for environmental concerns. Madam Susan, are you able to come in just to give more input on that? And probably if Joy and Hilary are aware of such a project, and probably can input in terms of what was the historical, what happened in this project a while back. Madam Susan, are you able to come to the mic and speak? Joy and Hilary, are you familiar with the project?
Maybe before Susan comes in, yes, there were actually 3 companies in Kenya that were producing hydrogen. 2 of them were shut down, one of them being the refineries. And then we also have another manufacturer that used to produce hydrogen for bonding of terminals. So these companies closed down. I think this was because of other reasons, which is business based. But now the other company, the third company, which used to produce hydrogen to be supplied to these countries, to these companies and others, because now of the drop in demand, so they stopped producing hydrogen locally and started now importing hydrogen from South Africa on demand. So those companies were there, but because of course business reasons, they closed in, and of course this resulted in the reduction of demand. Currently, apart from the one in Naivasha, we also have another company in the country that has electrolyzers for the production. So we have a couple of small scale companies that have been using electrolyzers even before the discussion on green hydrogen, where now they use the grid to power the electrolyzers to produce now the hydrogen for their own use. So those ones are there. They have been there, and yeah, we're aware of those companies.
Thank you. Joy, you want to add something?
Yeah, just because I know most people there's the safety concern. Just to reassure you that I've posted a link on the chat. There are now guidelines for project development of green hydrogen projects, and people actually have to go through a lot of stages to make sure that the project is approved, including making sure that the project is environmentally safe. So that is also available, and you can also go through the guidelines for project development. Yeah.
Thank you. All the links are in the chat, and we'll make sure to add them in the presentation before we share. Is this one question I think that we have not touched on that was submitted within the registration form, where somebody asked that what are the available opportunities in hydrogen? How can the graduates access such opportunities, and how can the graduates find mentors within the hydrogen space? I think we can tell that Hilary and Joy are quite young, and they're already deep into this space, so guiding us at least in this discussion. Probably what would be your, let me say, speak to your younger selves and speak to us what the opportunities that the young and old are trying to find within this space.
Maybe Joy can go ahead first.
Okay, okay, because I'm younger. Anyway, so their opportunities are there. As Hilary has presented, the green hydrogen is not only in the energy space. So there's energy, there's environment, there's industrialization, there's agriculture, there's maritime, because for green hydrogen, it's a very diverse topic, and there are very many value chains, so you're able to plug in at any point. There's also the chemical part, so even as a chemical engineer, you're able to plug in. So I think what we're trying to do as well is also increase awareness even to the students, because that's also not that information that is available. So we're trying to increase awareness for people to just understand green hydrogen. But if you're able to just take some time and understand the sector, you'd find that there are very many opportunities, and for you to be able to plug in at whatever stage. So yeah, that would be for graduates. In terms of mentorship, I can only speak for unfortunately one gender. So there's a platform called Women in Green Hydrogen, and they run a mentorship program. I'll also post the link for that here. But also when it comes to mentorship, I think in a career, that's also a very personal thing, and sometimes it's difficult for you to get mentors at the get-go. So these are also relationships that you're able to establish even as you're working, because you're also supposed to also see what you can get from a mentor. So yeah, I'll post for the Women in Green Hydrogen, and I apologize for not being very good in gender balance. Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, thank you, Joy. Yeah, the opportunities are there, and I think one of the highlights, or one of the key takeaways, is that hydrogen is not, or green hydrogen is not, it's not a technology that will mature tomorrow, next week, next month. No, this is topic that will be very relevant as we head towards 2050. So that means now that it makes more sense for the young people, it makes more sense for the graduates to align yourselves with this discussion. And we have opportunities for this. Of course, on top of the Women in Green Hydrogen that Joe was speaking about, we have a number of training opportunities that GIZ has been conducting the last 3-4 years. And one of our mandates is that even when you're doing these trainings for green hydrogen, because we have sector-specific trainings, for example, for the academia, for people in the industry, for people in school. So these trainings are usually available and for free. And what you could just do is, I think when you're able to, you can always look up GIZ Kenya page on LinkedIn, and we always post opportunities on training, because yeah, it's building an industry for the future. And of course, this will require a lot of groundwork, a lot of capacity building, a lot of establishment of skills currently that now will be harnessed or be used in the future. So for the young graduates, you feel free to reach out to Joy, feel free to reach out to, or to check the GIZ pages anytime that there's a workshop, anytime that there's a training, anytime that there's any event on green hydrogen. they're always available, and you can always apply. You can always just write an email to be involved in that. And I'm happy because I think I can say among the participants about 5 young people here that we have interacted and that we have already put into these activities. We really involve them into these activities, and it's nice having the young people there. So I encourage you that, yeah, this is a technology for the future that you can start aligning yourself, you can start preparing yourself, and I encourage you to take up the challenge, and be more than happy to offer opportunities and also to support you in that. Yeah.
Thank you, Joy and Hilary. I don't know if we have permission to share your emails or LinkedIn, but then I think we'll confirm with you guys once we harmonize all the presentation that we could submit to the participants on the email as we refer back to them. Thank you so much to everyone who has been able to engage with us. I do not see any more questions or inputs on the chat at this time. I hope you've been able to address every matter that has been raised. Kindly review the links that have been shared on the chats for more information. And definitely, if you do have any other question, you can definitely reach out to us at EIK, as well as GIZ, that where Joy and Hilary are based, and to get more information on the hydrogen project. Before I close the info webinar, once again, thank you so much to Hilary and Joy for coming with us on board on this presentation, and also just sharing with us the general knowledge on hydrogen development. And I'm sure it has definitely raised among for everyone. And yes, and we'll continue the conversation. This is just one again of the webinar series that we've had in development of as we proceed for the EIK 3rd International Conference and exhibition. It's supposed to take place in October. Our theme being on climate change and the energy transition. So once again, this has been the 3rd series. To the previous chart, to the second slide. This has been the 3rd of the series. The first we had on geothermal energy. Now secondly, we had on nuclear energy, and 3rd, we had on the hydrogen energy. The next one, we hope to confirm on e-mobility. We're already speaking on a partner on the same, and I think as each and every, or at least has been also been raised in this discussion, there's a lot of interest on the carbon markets. We want to generally understand it and what are the opportunities, or how does it relate to the energy transition, as well as the opportunities within the country for us to tap into the carbon markets. On the next slide, once again, this is just to inform us that this is a build-up to the 3rd environmental conference happening in October in Mombasa. It is open for registration today. You can register yourself as an individual, you can register as an institution, you can register as a company. We welcome each and every one of you, where we'll dive more deeper, have more presentation. We have received the abstracts. We're reviewing the projects for the different presentation on the title of climate change and energy transition. Other than that, and also as we add to some of these info webinar series, we do have trainings that are coming. The next training, this will be now an more in-depth training where we'll actually be able to have experts come in and actually offer a training course this time, and also be able to get a certificate for the same. This one will be on the land acquisition and resettlement planning, which will be happening next month. That's between the 9th and 27th of September for 3 weeks. And this will be a virtual presentation happening within the evenings, where we welcome both EIK members and non-members. For EIK members, it will be at a cost of 9,000 Kenya shillings, and for those who are non-members, 15,000. We welcome each and everyone, where we'll bring in all experts to guide us in this within this training, and this one will definitely be offering certificates to those who do take part on the same. There are other trainings which we're finalizing with our partners, so please be on the lookout on the same. How you can engage with us, how you can find the EIK, and also be part of the conversation and discussions that we are building up just for as we continue such conversations, we are now on YouTube, all the social channels, be it Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as on Twitter, where you're able to engage and follow with us. We encourage you also to tag us in your activity as an EIK member, and also just as an active environmentalist in whatever work you're doing. We'll be able to celebrate what you have been able to done or what you are achieving in your work. This is also commemorating that it's 10 years since the launch of EIK. It's been a whole decade of growth, so we are able to recognize and to celebrate each and every one and what we have been able to do. And for that, you can join us as a member. As a member, we have the various membership fees and subscription and the different membership categories. We have students, associate, lead, farms, and affiliates. So each and every one of us definitely has a place in which they can fit. From students, this is anyone within the environmental space, studying in environment within school, as well as once you graduate out of school, you come in as an associate. As you proceed within your career, you become a lead expert. Within your workspace, you are now a firm of experts. You're able to join with us, and we also have the opportunity for affiliates, and those are the respective links. I hope you have been able to notice the updates and the improvements that we have actually made on the membership portal within the EIK website. We hope you appreciate the same, and we hope that it's actually much more easier in terms of, for example, being able to access the status of your membership, as well as we are actually updating it. I think that was a request from the members, so that you are able to actually be able to see the active update of your CPD points. For example, in such participation for this webinar for our members, will definitely add your CPD points, which was for this info webinars, we are including 2 CPD points. For the training, there'll definitely be more CPD points of the same. Before I close, I don't know if there's any of the committee members within the call who would like to give in any further information. I do not see any hand raise or anyone coming to the mic, but once again, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you to Hilary, from Joy, from GIS, from leading us in this conversation. Reach to us officially at info@eik.co.ke and all the social platforms that we have given you, and our phone number has also been shared on the presentation. I want to say that we're all free to leave, and the recording will be shared on YouTube in hopefully a week's time, that you're able to come back and review on the same, but will be available on all other social platforms, as well as on email and on the phone number for service from the office. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely rest of your evening. Shukran.